We got married. I had been stationed overseas and had written Marie a letter asking her to marry me. We had both bought into the culture of our church that aimed all of us at being married and at having children. Trouble was, right from the beginning, her mother didn't like me. She was civil and even polite in public, but made it clear that she thought her daughter deserved better. But Marie believed I was the only one who would ever ask her to get married, so she said yes. The day before the wedding, her mom and I happened to be alone in the house, her house, together. She said, "You know, I don't much like the idea of Marie marrying you. I don't think you'll be a good husband." "I will be a good husband. Are you so sure your daughter will be a good wife?" "I'm sure. I raised her and taught her. She'll be a good wife. I'll be watching to see how good a husband you are." "You're welcome to watch." The wedding wasn't very big. Most of my friends from before I joined the military had moved away, and we had lost touch. Marie was not the most popular girl in town. She was quiet, shy, and seemed to blend in rather than stick out. 3 days after the wedding, we relocated to my new duty station, 1,000 miles away from Mama. Mama didn't like that. I thought things went pretty well for us. I got promoted 3 times in the next 4 years. We moved to another duty station, an island in the Pacific, and we started a family. On the occasions when we went on leave, we went home. Her parents, brother, and sister lived 5 miles from my parents and sister. At each visit home, our relationship hit a rocky time. When she spent time with her mom, she came away feeling like I wasn't a good enough husband. Her mother pointed out things that she said I should have been providing, but wasn't. I was making the military a career. That meant moving about every 3 years. Her mom made sure Marie saw the house her brother bought for his wife. She mentioned often that giving a wife a stable home was the duty of a husband. She sent us pictures of the house Marie's sister's husband bought her. She pointed out that we lived in government housing, as if it were part of being on welfare. When I was sent to Vietnam, Marie and our 2 young children were invited to live back home with Mama. Instead, I got them an apartment near our parents and I flew to Nam for a year. I didn't stay the year. With 78 days left, I caught a round in my leg, and it sent me home. I spent 3 days in a hospital in Saigon, a week in a hospital in Hawaii, and then was sent back to the mainland for further rehab and healing. In the time between being shot and getting home, Marie's mama continued to talk about how reckless and foolish I was to risk my life in the military. She advised Marie to get me to get out of the military and get a real job. I came home to that conversation, that pressure. Marie and her mama knew I was looking at the military as a career when we got married. Marie supported that then. After 2 months at home, near home, in rehab, I was cleared for duty again, and we were stationed at a base less than 3 hours from home. Marie seemed happy again, and the pressure lessened. A little. Near the end of 1969, I was sent back to Nam. Not for a full tour, but just for 30 days. What I was doing was classified so I could tell Marie I was going, and how long I would be gone, but not where I was going or what I would be doing once I got there. She was quite worried, but tempered the worry with the knowledge that I'd only be gone a month. That trip ended my military career. I was shot again. The bullet went through my shoulder, doing enough damage that the doctors said I couldn't continue to function in the Air Force. I was medically retired. My 1-month trip turned into 4 months in the hospital, 3 surgeries, months of physical therapy, and a return to civilian status. The scars were ugly. Marie cried every time she saw them for almost a year after I came back. We moved into a rental house 4 miles from our parents' homes, and I went looking for work. A friend from church found me a job. It was interesting, challenging work, and it paid pretty well. I figured Mama would finally be happy. I was out, working, her daughter was near her, and she got to be grandma. I was wrong. She bitched about me often. I got to know Marie's brother and his family better, and at some point I asked her brother if Mama was hard on him as well. He admitted that Mama had never liked me. He also admitted that he had heard her plotting to get Marie out of the marriage. She had said that Marie would be better off as a single mom than being married to me. She had said it more than once. Marie's sister's husband, Aaron, and I became better friends as well. He didn't know why Mama disliked me, but he was aware of it. He was glad I caught the heat because he knew it spared him. When we were at ball games, picnics, or other times when it was just our kids, and the 2 of us, we joked about the situation a little. It all came to a head the year our son, Adam, graduated from high school. He graduated and within a month moved to college. He was a good student and a good soccer player. The soccer had landed him a scholarship. After he had been gone for 4 months, Marie came to me and said she wanted a divorce. The church doctrine made it clear that divorce was not okay. When you got married, you were expected to tough it out, stay together, and solve your problems. I wanted to know why she wanted a divorce. She agreed that I was a good husband. She agreed that I was a good father. Her reason for wanting the divorce was that she was tired of being a wife and that she didn't love me. I recommended we go for counseling, therapy, some kind of intervention. The answer was no. Marie and our daughter stayed in the house. I got a small apartment. Almost every time I called the house after I moved out, Mama answered. Almost every time I called, I was told that Marie and Christine weren't home. They didn't call back. I had been isolated away from my family. I parked down the street from my old home and called the house. Mama said Marie wasn't there. 10 minutes later, they walked out and got in Mama's car and left. She lied. It happened so often that I found a way to see Christine on her way home from school for just a few minutes a few times a week. I told her what Grandma was doing, and she didn't believe me. A month later, I showed her my phone bill and the 28 calls to her home that lasted less than a minute each. She went home and asked Grandma if I ever called and asked for her. Grandma said I didn't call. She said she hadn't spoken to me in months. Christine asked her mother if she ever talked to me. Her mother responded that as long as the checks kept coming, she didn't need or want to talk to me. Christine and I had a relationship built on being honest with each other, and that we both knew would be best kept from Grandma and Marie. I spoke to my son once in a while he was at school. He made the mistake of mentioning that we had talked when he came home for Thanksgiving. The firestorm that erupted sent him 2 messages. He was not to talk to me and that he should never mention my name again. When he went back to school, he changed his phone number and my letters came back as undeliverable. I attended 2 of his soccer games and he didn't spend any time with me other than to thank me for coming to the games. No conversation about family, his life, my life, school, or anything. From then on, I attended games, made sure he saw me, but I didn't approach him. If he wanted me, I was there and he knew it. One day when Christine was 20, I got a call from her. She wanted me to meet the young man she had been dating. She was serious about him. On one of their dates, I met them at a restaurant for dinner. I liked him. It was obvious he was in love with Christine and that they were headed for marriage. I asked a lot of fatherly questions, and he gave lots of very good answers. At the end of dinner, I said, "You two probably shouldn't tell Grandma or your mom that we had dinner. I don't think they would be happy about it." Christine responded, "They better get used to you being in my life. When we get married, I want you to walk me down the aisle." I was touched and overwhelmed by hearing her say that. Her young man said, "I know about the conflict and we're ready for the heat. Will you walk her down the aisle? You name the time and place and I'll be there. Rented tux and everything." They set a date and started planning a wedding. Christine discovered how strong Grandma's influence was over her mother during the planning. Marie would agree with something when Christine talked to her about it, and the next day, after Marie spoke with her mother, everything changed. At a family dinner held at Grandma's house, Christine and Matt sprang me on the family. The conversation had been about flowers and food and dancing when Mike said, "Christine and I want her dad to walk her down the aisle." The house went quiet for a long time, and finally Grandma said, "If that man is going to be at the wedding, then you can count me out. I will not be under the same roof with him." Christine said, "He is my dad. It is my wedding. If I want him there, he can be there. I will miss you if you choose not to be there, but he has already agreed to walk me down the aisle." She stood up, took Matt's hand, and they left Grandma's house. The next day, my phone rang at work. For the first time in 10 years, I heard Marie's voice on the phone. She didn't even say hello or identify herself. "I don't want you to come." "Who is this?" I asked. I knew who it was. "Marie. I mean it. I don't want you to come." "Marie? My ex-wife? It can't be. She hasn't made a phone call in 10 years. Who is this really?" "It's Marie. I make phone calls, just not to you. But this is important. If you come to the wedding, you'll ruin it." "I'll ruin it? By doing what the bride and groom asked me to do? How can that be?" "Mama won't come if you'll be there. Mama helped raise Christine. Mama has been there for her whole life. You haven't. I don't want you there. Can you call me back after 4? I need to think about your request, and I want you to call me back. Can you do that?" 4. "Yes." There was a pause, and she said, "Yes, I'll call you at 4. I called Christine. "Honey, I want you and Matt to take your mama out for dinner. I'll pay for dinner. I want the 4 of us to talk. She shouldn't know I'll be there. This is important to me, and I think important to the 2 of you, too. How about we go to El Patio? Mom likes that restaurant. Tonight about 6:30? "Yes, we'll be there. It would be best if Grandma doesn't even know where you're going." "Gotcha." At 4 the phone rang. I answered and Marie said, "So what's your answer?" "Hello. My answer is that I'd like to meet with your bishop before agreeing to not be at the wedding. I always liked Alan before he became bishop and I want his advice. Will you meet with me and Alan?" "No, this is not something I want talked about all over the church. This is a private matter between us. Don't you think someone will notice when the father of the bride isn't at her wedding? Won't that cause talk? And aren't bishops supposed to keep conversations confidential? Besides, are you scared that mama will spank you? I won't meet with him. I don't want to see you, either. I still want his advice. With you or without you, I'm going to meet with him. If you decide you want to be there, let me know. In fact, call me and give me 2 or 3 times when you could meet with us, and I'll be sure to set the appointment for one of those times. I won't call you back. I won't meet with you and Alan. Then when can I call you back to give you my answer? Can't you give me your answer now? My answer now is that I'll be there. I'll walk Christine down the aisle. If you want me to look at your request seriously, then I need time, and we'll need to talk again. Call me at home on Monday morning. No, you call me here at work on Monday morning. I will. She hung up. I called Alan, and we talked for almost an hour. He had known Marie and her mama for just as long as I had. His advice was said in one sentence: I look forward to seeing you at the wedding. When I walked into El Patio, I saw that Christine had made sure that Marie sat faced away from the entrance. I walked to their table and sat next to Matt, across from Marie and Christine. What are you doing here? Marie asked. Paying for dinner. Isn't it okay for a man to buy his daughter, her fiancé, and his ex dinner? I want to go home. I've lost my appetite. Christine looked at her mother and said, Eat or don't eat. That's up to you. It's 8 miles home and you didn't drive. We want to talk to you and I thought this would be nice, sharing a meal together while we talk. What is there to talk about? Matt said, How about the wedding? At that moment the waitress came and we took a moment to order. It had been years since I had been in El Patio with Marie, but I remembered that she always ordered the chicken tostada salad. She looked at the menu for half a minute and ordered the chicken tostada salad. I ordered chicken enchiladas. When the waitress had gone, Matt repeated, How about the wedding? Did you tell Christine that you called me at work today? I asked. Christine turned to her mother and said, You did? Yes. I called to ask him not to come to the wedding. Isn't it my wedding? Christine asked. Yes, but you're making a mistake. Nick shouldn't be a part of it. He left you years ago. He didn't raise you. Your grandma and I raised you. Why wasn't Dad a part of that? He never came by, never called. Oh, but he did, Mom. I've seen the phone records. Hundreds of less than a minute phone calls that I never got. Grandma said we weren't home, and she never gave me the messages. That's not true. Marie protested. I pulled photocopies from my briefcase and handed them to Marie. Years of phone records. As she looked at them, I said, Out in my car I have photos of every birthday present, Christmas present, and other gift I sent to the house and that were returned. I'll bet you would recognize the handwriting on the packages that says, Return to sender. It's your mother's handwriting. I wasn't in Christine's life because someone wanted me out. I found ways to get the presents to her, but it wasn't easy. Marie digested the overwhelming evidence in front of her and handed the copies back to me. Our dinners arrived. We ate in silence and finally Christine asked, You still want me to tell Daddy not to come to my wedding? You still think Grandma was so good to me, to us, that I should bend to what she wants? That bitch ruined my childhood for her selfish motives. She separated me from my father, and that no good bitch still wants me to give up my father. If it was possible, I would throw her out of my life. She's my mother. I put my fork down, looked across at Marie. Okay, that bitch is your mother. What are you willing to give up so that I get something to compensate for missing Christine's wedding? Give up? She looked at me like she didn't understand. Yes, you want me to give up something big, something huge, something every dad wants to be a part of. What do I get? What do you want? Nothing. I want to be there. I want to be in a tux and proudly walk my daughter down the aisle to Matt. That's what I want. If you want me to give that up, you have to compensate me well. I don't know what I could give you. I sat quietly, waiting. Matt said, Does Nick still send you a check every month? Marie said, Yes. Our divorce has him pay me alimony every month. He's still paying? Matt asked. We had never talked about it. He was walking into an area he knew nothing about. Yes, he has to. Would you be willing to change the court order and stop getting alimony? I asked. I need that money. So what are you willing to give up? Matt asked. It was very quiet. The waitress came, and I gave her a credit card for dinner. Marie looked at Christine and said, Having Nick there will ruin the day for Mama and for me. He ought to see that and not be there. Your mama can go and shove it up her butt. Now tell me, what would he need to give you to have you stay home? Christine asked. I wouldn't stay home. You're my daughter. I want to be there when you get married. I feel the same way. For 27 years your mother has disliked me. To my way of thinking she plotted and ended our marriage. not my time in the service or my injuries. It has come down to her deciding either she will be at Christine's wedding or I will. Now, I put it on you. I'll tell you what I will accept. I will stay away on the day of the wedding if you show me an amended court order stopping the alimony forever, and if you spend a weekend in bed with me, having sex with me. I can't. She said it loud enough that people all over El Patio turned and looked at her. Why not? I have been paying you as a hooker with no service for such a long time. Why not use your service now? Are you a virgin? I don't think so. You have had sex with me before. I remember. I'll make reservations at the Blue Lantern Inn, down at Dana Point, and no one except the four of us will ever know. Matt was working hard not to smile. Christine had never heard me talk about my sex life with her mother before. She was a little shocked. She looked at me, not her mother. I can't. She paused, adding, what could I tell my mother? Tell her the price for me staying away was for you to give up alimony forever. You don't need to tell her about the Blue Lantern Inn. And, so you feel safer, I haven't had sex with anyone in the last 3 months. I had a complete physical 2 months ago, and other than some minor problems with a bad shoulder, I'm healthy and have no diseases. I need to think. Okay, Matt, I think dinner is over. I'll know her answer when she calls me to say no, or I get the court order in the mail and a note telling me what weekend, before the wedding, to make reservations at the inn. As soon as I know, you'll know. I shook Matt's hand, hugged Christine, and kissed her goodbye. I stood with my arms open and waited a few seconds for Marie to decide what she was going to do. She stayed in her chair. I left. 10 days later, I got a letter from the court letting me know that the court order for spousal support had been terminated and a copy of the new court order. I checked with my attorney and found out that the way it had been written, alimony was over and could not be reinstated. 2 days later, my phone rang and Marie said, I changed the court order. Yes, thanks. I have my calendar open. What dates? I want us to be clear about this. We go to this inn and stay 2 days. During the stay, I agree to have sex with you once. You don't decide anything. I will decide what to do with you. We will be served breakfast in the room both mornings. We will go out for lunch and dinner at nice sit-down restaurants, and other than that, you will be in the room with me, naked and willing for as much sex as I want. I don't know if I can have a lot of sex. I haven't been in bed with anyone but you, ever. I'll take care of that. Sometimes you are so nasty. Sometimes you believe babies start by spontaneous combustion. Look around at church this Sunday. All those children were started by people having sex. God made it feel good for a reason. What if I can't do it? Then I rent a tux. I have it reserved. That's why we're going before the wedding. Okay, the weekend of the 20th. Done. I'll make the reservations today. You can tell Christine you have agreed. Where shall I meet you? Send your mother to the store or something. I'll come to your front door and carry your suitcase to the car on Friday afternoon. I'll bring you back on Sunday while your mother is in church. Okay, she did not sound happy. Christine called me that evening. Daddy, Mom tells me she gave up the alimony. She did, and I have the court order framed and hanging on the wall in my bathroom. Did she agree to the other as well? Yes, she picked dates and everything. She doesn't want me at the wedding, sweetheart. I'm glad she gave up the alimony, but I want you at the wedding. I've been thinking about that. How important is the whole ceremony thing to you and Matt? Mike has no family out here to attend. He came out here for college, and his parents and family can't afford to come for the wedding. It seems Mom and Grandma are all about the show. They worry about what people will think if I pick colors different from everyone else, or flowers, or if I want a dress that isn't just white. Call Matt, please. See if he'd be willing for us to fly back to his home and get married there. A simple ceremony, no frills, just love. If you two are up for it, I'll buy the tickets and we'll do it. If that is, I still get to walk you down the aisle. Oh, Daddy, great idea. I'll call you back. Half an hour later, she called me back. The wedding would still happen on the same day, as scheduled, but instead of in Los Angeles, it would be in Vermont. The next day, Christine called me at work and asked, are you still going to take Mom to that place in Dana Point? Honest answer, yes. I always loved sex with your mother, and I've missed that. She has promised me 2 days of willing sex. I promised not to be at the wedding here in LA. On Friday the 19th, my phone rang at 9 in the morning. Caller ID showed Marie's number. I answered, professionally. It was Grandma. What are you up to? She asked. Excuse me, who is this, please? I knew who it was. Elaine, you are such a a-hole. You cheated Marie out of her alimony, and I think there's more. Marie has been acting strangely the last few days, and today I looked at the phone bill and she's been calling you. Did you ask her about the calls? So, you don't deny them? What good would that do? You have the phone records in front of you. You think perhaps she bought me off to make you happy and a few phone calls were needed to get that to happen? It wouldn't take that many. Not for someone like you, but perhaps your daughter isn't as astute as you about such matters. You called just to verify that we spoke? No, I want to make sure you are nowhere near the chapel on the 27th. Well, first of all, you need to put this in your old brain that you cannot make me do a thing. You may control your daughter, but that is the limit of your control. Next time you call me, you better put some respect on that name. Besides, just to make you a bit happy, I have a plane ticket out of LAX on the 25th and returning on the 30th. I will be over 1,000 miles away. You can come to LAX and see me leave if you'd like. Will that make you happy? It cost us thousands of dollars for you to go. You better go. Did anyone ever tell you how mean and controlling you attempt to be? Just you. And your opinion isn't worth much around here. You have certainly made sure that's true. Well, I need to get back to work. Have a nice time at the wedding. Will you be walking Christine down the aisle? No, her Uncle Bill will be doing it. Bye. I hung up. 30 seconds later, the phone rang. ID showed her number. I let it go to the answering machine. My suitcase was in my car. Marie called and said her mother had gone to a meeting at church and would be gone until 5:30. I arrived on the front porch at 4:30. Marie opened the door and handed me her small suitcase. She was looking good. She had on a dress, a shirtwaist dress in a flowered print made of silk. She wore 2-inch heels and stockings. Her hair was freshly done, and she had her nails done as well. I opened the car door for her and said, "You look really nice, Marie." "Thank you." She sat and put her seatbelt on. I went to my door, got in, and drove away. I could have driven past the church to get to the freeway, but didn't. I went a different way. Marie didn't talk until we were on the freeway. She seemed to relax a little the farther we got away from her home. "So, what can we talk about?" she asked. "Tell me about what you do that you really enjoy. My memories are old, and what you used to like may have changed. I still enjoy movies. Mostly I watch movies on cable, but once in a while we go to a theater. Most of the drive to Dana Point we talked about movies we had seen. We also talked about food. I remembered that in the old days, I liked to rest my hand on her thigh as I drove. I also remembered that if I just put my hand on her leg, she jumped and yelped in surprise. "Marie, don't jump. I'm putting my hand on your leg." I didn't ask for permission. I hadn't asked when we were married. My hand felt right at home on her thigh. Peripherally, I could see her looking at my hand. She didn't say anything. I told her there were some CDs in the glove box, and she picked one and slid it into the stereo. After 2 songs, her hand rested atop mine on her leg. We parked beside the Blue Lantern Inn and Marie looked around. It is a beautiful building that sits atop a bluff overlooking Dana Point Harbor and the ocean. I had booked a room on the top floor with a balcony. I checked us in and I carried both bags. Marie stood nearby looking embarrassed. In the elevator, I said, "No one knows we aren't still married. They look at us and wonder how an old fart like me landed a babe like you. You are so full of it." She smiled. I opened the door to our room and she took in a breath. The room was beautiful. I had stayed in the same room a few years before with a woman I thought might become Mrs. Nick, but all that was left of that relationship was a nice memory in the room at the Blue Lantern. The suitcases went on the racks and I opened them. I hung her clothes in the closet and mine beside them. When I turned to look, Marie was standing beside the bed with her hands at the top buttons of her dress. She was looking at the bed. I stepped to her and wrapped her in my arms. Softly, I said, "Relax. We need to go have dinner. Will you be warm enough if we sit outside to eat?" She brought a sweater. We ate at a wonderful seafood restaurant right by the water. We watched the sun set and see birds flying off to wherever birds go to spend the night. Before we went back to the inn, we walked. I held her hand. She was quiet for a long time. When we turned back towards the car, she asked, "Why are you being nice to me? In 1965, I told you I loved you. I'm pretty sure I told you every so often until we got divorced. Just because you haven't heard me say it doesn't mean I stopped. I've treated you terribly. I made myself believe you were influenced by your mother. She hasn't liked me since 1964. I want to enjoy these 2 days. It's likely they are the last sex I'll ever have with a woman I love. I want all of it to be great, for both of us. I don't want to have sex with you. And you will. You made a deal with me, with Matt and Christine too. The deal was for me to get 2 days of willing sex from you. I feel like a hooker. I sold you my body. Rented maybe, not sold. This is 2 days. Monday you are back at home, and no one will know what we did here unless you tell them. Reality is that you have no idea what it feels like to be a hooker. Your body has been yours, cared for, and protected all your life. A hooker opens her legs to strangers, flaunts her body, lets strangers hold her. touch her, and invade her with no real regard for her at all. We went up in the elevator with another couple. They were about our age. She was in his arms, and they kissed as the elevator rose. When the doors opened on the second floor, she said, "I guess I'm in a hurry." We smiled and wished them a pleasant night. At our door, I stopped and took Marie in my arms. I pressed her against my chest and felt her holding back. "Kiss me," I commanded. My voice was a whisper, but I knew she heard it as a command. She tilted her head and kissed me, lips touching lips. When she ended the kiss, I said, "When we step inside, take everything off. Go in and start the shower and I'll join you." I opened the door and we went inside. She took her time undressing and I watched. She walked into the bathroom. I walked into the bathroom behind her. She was facing the shower. I got close and said, "If you want, I'll leave my t-shirt on so you don't have to see my scars." "Thank you." She stepped under the stream of water. I joined her. We took a shower and she was a bit reserved. She shut off the shower and we dried. I kissed her again, and this time she used soft lips and her hands were on my arms. After ages, we made love. Once we were done, she was snuggled against me and sound asleep. We were covered. I kissed her forehead and went back to sleep. At 9 in the morning, I heard a knock at the door. I threw on a robe and opened the door. A woman pushed our breakfast cart into the room. Marie hid under the covers. The woman put our breakfast on the table on our balcony and left. One of the best parts of having this room is that we cannot be seen when we're on our balcony. "Get up and come have breakfast." She got out of bed and headed for her robe. I took mine off. She stopped. "You want me to sit outside naked and have breakfast?" "I do, if my scar bothers you. I'll wear a t-shirt, but I want to see you." "It doesn't seem right." "I honestly am willing for it to feel however it feels, and have you do it anyway. You've always been more comfortable being naked than I have. I believe that might be because your mom is very uncomfortable about her body. How would you know how mom feels about her body? Your dad and I were friends when we weren't with Elaine. He shared with me once that they had been married 30 years and he had never seen her naked. I've never known anyone else who was married 30 years and never saw their spouse naked. He told me she changed clothes in their closet. They never showered together. She's just modest. Modest is not letting the neighbors see you showering. Modest is wearing clothes that don't expose your underwear, your genitals, or sexual activity. Have you ever seen your mom kiss your dad? Not a peck, but a kiss? No, they wouldn't do that. Your dad would have. He told me. He never got a real kiss from her. I'm grateful you weren't that restrained. I led her out onto our balcony. She looked around and satisfied herself that no one could possibly see us. The sun was warm and the soft, gentle breeze felt good. We started eating and found the French toast, sausage, hash browns, and juice were perfect. As she ate, she forgot about being naked. I enjoyed the view. When we were done, Marie looked at me and asked, "What's next?" "More sex?" "You'll continue to believe I'm obsessed with sex, but consider this. I haven't been in bed with anyone in a long time. Our agreement is just for this weekend. I may not get sex with you ever again. If you knew the odds were good that you couldn't have ice cream ever again, how much ice cream would you want between now and Sunday afternoon? You can invite someone else to have sex with you. I'm not the only woman in the world. Invite the woman you had sex with last time. When you want lobster, a turkey sandwich just won't satisfy. I wanted the sex with her to do for me what sex with you does for me. It didn't. Now, come inside." We went back inside and I put on some music. I danced with Marie in the tiny space between the bed and the fireplace. She relaxed and soon we were kissing as we danced. Things progressed and soon we were back in bed. I took my time and didn't rush us. We joined slowly and tenderly. I reminded myself that this really wasn't about getting laid. It was about reconnecting with Marie. We napped before going out for dinner. When we noticed it getting dark, we got up, showered again, and dressed. As we walked to the car, I asked her what she wanted for dinner. "Protein. This is an energetic weekend." We ate in the marina at the bottom of the bluff below the inn. We laughed and talked like we had been together all the years that we hadn't. After dinner, she wanted to walk, so we did. Hand in hand at first, then my arm around her and her arm around me. She began to talk. I understood that she wasn't talking to me as much as she was processing her own thoughts and memories. "I think the happiest I ever saw my mom was the day you moved out. I cried almost all that day, and she puttered around my house like she owned it in me. Sometimes I'd come home from work, and she would act like she had the biggest, best secret in the world. Until I saw the phone records, I never knew what the secret was. When Adam said he had seen you at a soccer game, Mom told him she would stop sending him money if he kept seeing you. He didn't share that with me until last year. When my dad died, I thought she would cry and mourn for a long time. About 2 months after he was gone, she said, 'I barely miss him at all. He doesn't pester me anymore. I was missing you every day and every night, and it had been over 2 years. How could she say that about my dad? I kept us walking. The processing was good for her. Eventually, she turned us towards my car and said, "Can we go back to our room? I'd like to cuddle with you in bed." We went back to our room. The bed was freshly made. A plate with 2 big chocolate chip cookies sat on the bed. I started the fire in the fireplace, and we undressed. We sat on the bed with me leaned against the headboard. Marie leaned against me and ate our cookies as we watched the fire. When the cookies were gone, we still sat watching the fire. "Nick, I apologize." Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. For tossing you aside. For believing I didn't love you when Mom said I didn't. For not finding ways to include you in the lives of Adam and Christine. Before I can say I forgive you, I need to ask a question. What are you going to do about it? She turned around to face me. She turned and kissed me. When the kiss ended, she said, "I want you to walk Christine down the aisle. I want you to give up your apartment and move back home where you belong. I want to marry you again." You sure about all that? You sure you don't just want a weekend at the beach once in a while? I was smiling. I'm sure. One of the reasons I didn't want to agree to this weekend was that I knew I loved you. I knew when you put your arms around me I was gonna melt. I'm afraid of Mama and what hell she'll put us through, but having you back will be worth it. Where does she think you are? I left her a note saying I needed to get away and think things through. She probably thinks I'm with Bruce and Leslie up at Big Bear Lake. When I have run away to think in the past, that's where I went. By now she knows that's not where you are. I know. While we were driving down here, I realized my car is in the garage at home. She knows I'm not alone. I need to talk with Matt and Christine and with Adam too. My brother Bill thinks he's walking Christine down the aisle. I'm going to be on the phone for days. Stop, please. Our weekend isn't over. I want to pretend that the world, our world, is on hold until tomorrow afternoon. Right now there is Nick and there is Marie. The rest will work out tomorrow. We got under the covers and held each other as we went to sleep. Sometime during the night we woke up and joined again. It was passionate, almost animal rutting as we came together in the darkness. At 9 o'clock the knock came at the door. I found a robe and put it on, opened the door and let the woman with our breakfast in. Marie stayed under the covers until she was gone. She got up, brushed her hair and joined me on the balcony. We ate and watched boats, seagulls and people down at the marina. When she was ready, Marie said, "Can we make love one more time before we go? Out here or inside?" "Inside. I'm not going to be an exhibitionist. If we do it here where no one can watch, how is that an exhibit?" "Inside, please." I followed her inside. We went slow and we pounded against each other. We showered again and got dressed for the drive home. Marie asked if I would rather she wore a dress or shorts. I picked the dress. As she dressed, I asked her to leave the panties in the suitcase. She looked at me like I was very strange, then she smiled and put them back in the suitcase. We packed and left the room. I paid the bill and we loaded the car. The lady behind the desk followed us to our car and gave us 2 more big chocolate chip cookies for the road. As we drove, I could tell that Marie was getting psyched up to confront her mom when we got home. "You know, I've been thinking about what happens when we get home." I nodded. "Mama is going to be so angry. Let's do a run-through. Pretend I'm your mom." You walk in and she says, "Where have you been?" I went away to think. "You didn't say where or when you'd be back." I said, "Playing Elaine. I'm over 21, Mom. Do I still have to check in with you for permission? It's just common courtesy to let me know where you are and when you'll be back. Do you do that for me?" Marie asked. "What?" I responded, still playing Mama. "Do you always tell me where you're going and when you'll be back?" "Mostly. I tell you mostly. But now that I'm back, I'd like to talk to you about decisions I've made." "Decisions you've made or decisions you want to make?" "Decisions I've made. The first one is that I want you to move your things back to your house. You've been acting like you live in both houses. You don't live here, I do. And I want my key back. If I do that, you'll be all alone. My business, not yours. Can you be out by tomorrow night?" "No, I'll need help and Bill works every day. I'll hire a mover to pack your things and move them back to your house. Or maybe the bishop can send a couple of men by who need to do some service." "What's the hurry?" "Someone else is moving in. I want them in as soon as possible. So, I won't be alone for more than a few hours." "Who is moving in?" I asked, still playing my role. "Nick is coming back." "Nick? We got rid of him once. We got him out of your life and I thought it was for good." "Yes, you thought. You got him out of our lives." "Mom, I know about all the phone calls you never told me about. I know about all the presents you sent back. I know how you sabotaged any chance we had of patching things up back then. Lies. He's filled your head with lies. And he got the phone company to make fake phone records. He took pictures of fake packages with your handwriting on the boxes saying, "No such person at this address." No, Mom, you did that. I suppose you want him to walk Christine down the aisle too. Yes, I do. Then none of us will be there. Bill won't attend, or his family. Judy and her family won't be there. I certainly won't be there. For all my life, you have manipulated me into doing whatever you wanted. Not this time. If no one is there except Christine, Matt, Nick and me, it will be a wedding. I stayed quiet. I pulled over and parked. Marie, I want you to think about this. Matt's family can't come to the wedding. They can't afford it. They love him. How would it be if we flew to Vermont and had the wedding there? Oh, Nick, that solves the whole problem. Anyone who wants to attend can fly to Vermont and be there. Mama can stay here and be all righteous if she wants to. Do you think Christine will go along with it? I handed her my cell phone, hitting the speed dial for Christine's number. Christine, it's your mom. Can you sit down and talk to me? Honey, the whole family here is about to be very angry with me and with you. Do you think Matt's family could arrange for a wedding in their town on short notice? Oh, honey, call Matt and have him call his family. Call me back on Nick's cell phone. Yes, we're back together. I spoke up, loud enough that I was sure Christine could hear me. Ask her to see if there could be a double wedding. I heard the squeal from Christine through the phone. They hung up. We sat by the side of the road for a few minutes and my cell rang. Marie answered. They gushed at each other for 10 minutes and then promised to talk in an hour when Matt and Christine were at the house. We drove to the house. I saw the curtain move as Elaine looked to see if Marie was home. She saw my car. She saw me get out of my car and open the door for Marie to get out. I got her suitcase and she said I should bring mine in too, so she could do my laundry and start moving me in. I followed her through the door. Elaine was standing in the middle of the living room, her hands on her hips and her face red with anger. Why is he here? She was almost yelling. Is this your house? Marie asked. It's your house. Then I can have anyone I want in my house, Mother. I want Nick here. If you want to talk, you'll need to wait. I need to start the washing. She took both suitcases and went to the service porch. Elaine sat in her rocking chair. It was once the chair she had in her living room, but she had moved it to Marie's living room after I moved out. I sat on the couch. Marie came back and sat on the couch near me. While I was gone, I solved the wedding problem, Mother. We moved the wedding. There was too much anger and upset over the wedding not being your way or being your way. Christine wants Nick to walk her down the aisle. You threatened to boycott the wedding if he's there. Well, the wedding is still Saturday at 1, but not here. We're flying to Vermont, and they're getting married in Matt's hometown. His uncle is the bishop, and he will do the honors. That way the wedding won't have all the negative energy that would be here. I won't be there. I know. I will let everyone we invited know of the change of venue. They can come to Vermont or not. Either way, we are having a wedding. I won't be here when you get back. Marie looked at her mother and said, Can you be out by tomorrow afternoon? What? You have a house. Can you take all your things and get there by tomorrow afternoon? Are you throwing me out? In a kind way, yes. We need the room for Nick to move back in. When he gets off work tomorrow, he can start bringing his stuff back. The question is, can you get your things out by then? He's moving back in? But you aren't married anymore. It isn't against the law for us to shack up for a week. What do you mean, for a week? Right after Christine and Matt get married on Saturday, the bishop is marrying us. This is just wrong. I agree, it has been wrong, and for that, I apologize. I wanted to believe that my mother would never do anything that wasn't in my best interest. I believed that your love for me would motivate you to always be looking out for me. When you told me I didn't love Nick, I believed you. When you hid his attempts to stay in touch and stay involved, I believed you when you said he hadn't called. I was wrong and I have apologized. Tears ran down Marie's face as she spoke. Elaine sat in her rocking chair, looking very much like she had been slapped. I have always loved you. Everything I have ever done has been for your benefit. You decided before we were ever married that you didn't like Nick. I knew it. Nick knew it. Everyone in the family knew it. How is that being supportive? How is that helping my life to work? He's never been good enough for you. He still isn't. The church says I should be married, have children, raise them to be good adults, and stand by my man. My mother says I should only marry a man she picks, only have children with him, and stand by the man she picks. Did you let your mother pick your husband, Mother? My mother approved of Kurt. She liked him. She thought we should wait until he got out of the army before we got married. But she liked him. Did you love him? Of course I loved him. Really? While I was away this weekend, I thought a lot about what I saw of you and my daddy. I never saw you walk holding hands with him. I never saw you kiss him. I saw you peck him on the cheek a few times, but never saw a kiss between you. I saw you tell him what to buy you for Christmas, and then tell him he got the wrong thing when you got exactly what you told him to get. How did you show him you loved him? What was the example you gave Bill, Judy, and me for how to show a spouse love? I took good care of him. I cooked and cleaned and raised his children. I'm not good at being outgoing with affection. I loved him. You told me that Nick was too open with his affection. You made me feel like Nick was doing something wrong when he kissed me in front of the kids. You told me I shouldn't like sex with him. You said sex wasn't for enjoyment, it was for making babies. Well, you were wrong, Mother. Sex is one way Nick and I show each other affection. It helps bond us together. One of the reasons I want you to move out is so Nick and I can have more sex without wondering if you're listening. I want to walk around the house naked, because Nick likes looking at me naked. I don't want to listen to this. He has corrupted your thinking. You don't need to listen to this. You can pack your things and go home, Mother. If it's too big a job for you, we can call the bishop, and he'll send a few men from the congregation to help pack your things and move them to your house. I don't want you to sleep here tonight. I want Nick to sleep here tonight and tomorrow night and every night from now on. If you do this, you will lose your mother. Remember in the Bible where it talks about when you get married, you trade the bonds with your parents for the bond with a spouse, and you should cleave to the spouse? That's what I'm doing. If you want to be in my life, in our lives, you need to be supportive, loving, and allow us to love each other as we see fit. If you can't do that, then we'll miss you. If I have to choose married to Nick or having you in my life, I choose Nick. You'll regret this. You shouldn't treat your mother like this. I brought you into this world. Now you're throwing me out. No, you are choosing to leave. I want a loving, supportive mother. You say you can't be loving and supportive. Your choice. I choose to be Nick's wife. He is the father of my children. He loves me and I love him. We are willing to love you and have you be in our lives, but only if you can be loving and supportive. You wouldn't even be supportive of Christine's choices about her wedding. So, she gets married almost 3,000 miles away from you. That is your doing. The washing machine dinged, announcing that the load was ready to transfer to the dryer. Marie got up and went to handle the transfer. Elaine sat quietly for a few moments, then stood and picked up her purse. She said, "I'll have someone come to get my things tomorrow. Will you be here to show them what to take?" I asked. Marie knows what things are mine. I'm sure she does. However, your things are your responsibility. If you are involved, we eliminate the possibility of you not getting all your things and then blaming either Marie or me for what's missing. Please, be here with whoever you send, and then you will be sure you get everything that's yours. God, okay, I'll be here. I'll be off work at 5 and here by 6:30. Does that give you enough time? I'm sure it does. Marie came back into the room and saw her mother holding her purse and standing. Leaving. What time will you be back in the morning? I'll call before we come for my things. I would guess we'll be here at about 9 or 10. Marie went to the front door, opened it, and opened her arms to offer her mother a hug. I had never seen them hug, ever. Elaine walked past Marie's open arms and said, "I don't hug. I know. I've wanted a hug from you since I was a little girl." Elaine went out the door, and we watched her get in her car and drive away. Marie stood next to me, and I held her as we watched her mom drive away. We drove to my apartment, and I packed enough things so I had clothes for work the next day. We stopped at a store, and I bought some boxes for my things, and some boxes for Elaine to use as she moved out of Marie's house. We went home, and for the first time in almost 10 years, Marie made dinner for us. We sat at the table and ate, did the dishes afterwards together, and we talked. At 8 or a little after, the phone rang. I felt the urge to answer it, but I didn't. It couldn't be for me. Only 2 people knew I was back, and Elaine wouldn't be calling to talk to me. It was Adam. He had been called by Elaine, and he was angry. Marie talked to him for almost half an hour. For the first 15 minutes of that time, I sat on the couch, and she sat in the chair by the front door. Then she moved and sat in my lap with my arms wrapped around her. Tears dropped on my chest. Adam told her how wrong she was to love me. Adam told her all the lies that Elaine had willingly told him over the years. At the end of the half hour, he was clear that he was invited to the wedding, that we were back together, and that we loved him. Marie was sure he wasn't coming to the wedding, and that he said he wasn't coming home for even a visit as long as I was living in the house. At a little after 9, the phone rang again. It was Marie's brother, Bill. She was still in my lap from the call from Adam. I heard Bill as he spoke to Marie. He told her about the call he got from Elaine and his reaction. He talked about how he felt lucky that Mama hadn't decided he was her target, and how bad he felt for what happened to us. Bill and his wife would fly to Vermont and be at the wedding. They had already booked their flight. Bill would be coming to help Elaine pack in the morning. He said some supportive things to Marie and asked her to tell me, "Welcome back." By 10, we were getting ready for bed. Marie did her normal ritual for getting ready, right up to the part of the ritual where she donned her nightgown. She held it in her hands and then hung it on the back of the door. She faced me and opened her arms. "Like what you see?" I smiled and said, "Yes, let's go to bed." We were noisy on purpose, even though no one else was in the house. The alarm woke me, at 6. I got up and headed for the shower. Marie didn't need to get up that early. When I was in the shower, she joined me. We played as we got clean and we laughed. As I dressed, she made me breakfast. She made French toast and put a jar of peanut butter on the table by my plate. I sat to eat fully dressed. She sat with me and stayed naked. It was nice being home again, and it was nice that home was changing. Marie spent the day making phone calls and sending emails to all the people who had been invited to the wedding. She greeted Bill and Mama when they came for Mama's things. Mama didn't even speak to Marie. It took Bill less than 90 minutes to get all of Mama's things. Marie made a pitcher of lemonade and Bill drank some. While Marie was making calls, she heard Mama huff and grunt a few times. She assumed they were editorial noises and didn't react to them. A few of the invited guests to the wedding made reservations for flying to Vermont. Many did not. The ones who asked, Marie told the truth about why the wedding was moved. Our flight to Vermont left at 4 on Friday afternoon. It was after midnight when we got to Vermont, and after 3 by the time we got into our hotel room in bed. We were still a little tired when we got to the church at noon. I was in a small room helping get things ready for the ceremony when Bill burst in and said, "You are not going to believe who's here." "Okay, who is it?" He grabbed my arm and led me to the door leading into the front of the chapel. I peeked through the small opening and almost gasped. Sitting in the front row, bride's side, was Elaine. She was in a nice lavender dress and was all smiles. "Does Christine or Marie know she's here?" Bill said, "Since you and I are the only ones out here who know who she is, I don't think so." We went back to the room where Marie and Christine were getting ready. I knocked and Marie opened the door a little. "I need to talk to both of you, right now. It's urgent." "Okay, come in." Marie opened the door and I saw Christine as bride for the first time. She was radiant and beautiful. Marie was as beautiful to me, but her dress was more subdued. "Marie, please sit for a moment." She sat next to Christine. Sitting in the chapel, front row, bride's side, is Elaine. Marie jumped up and said, "No way." "Yes, Bill saw her come in. Neither of us has spoken to her, but we both saw her." "I'll be right back," Marie said as she left the room. Christine looked at me and said, "What does it mean?" "I think it means your grandmother decided she loves you and your mom more than she loves being right." Marie is finding the answer to that question right now. "Do I look good enough to marry, Daddy?" "You are the second most beautiful bride I've ever seen." We hugged. A knock came at the door. I opened it a crack and saw Adam standing there. "Dad, I came to apologize to Christine, but since you're here, may I apologize to both of you?" I opened the door and they were each other's arms. Scott apologized for being an idiot and for not believing what Marie and Christine knew. Marie came back and she was included in the hugs, tears, and apology. I asked, "Adam, what happened?" "Less than a week ago, you were never going to see your mom again. Grandma called me and told me what she had done. She asked me to forgive her and forgive you. She asked me to help her get here." A man I had known for less than a day stood in the doorway and said, "I've got a chapel full of people waiting for a wedding. Can we start the music?" The women scurried for 30 seconds and then said, "Start the music." An hour later, Christine and Matt were married. Marie and I were married as well. I had the honor of walking Christine down the aisle. I had the honor of marrying Marie. During the reception, I got to dance with Christine, then with Marie. A little later, Elaine came to me and said, "I think it's customary for the groom to dance with the mother of the bride. I missed out on that some years ago because I was foolish. If you're willing to let me apologize for being a bitch, I'd like to rectify that now." At the end of the dance, Elaine kissed me on the cheek. Tears ran down her cheeks. "Thank God for waterproof mascara." "Oh, are you going to get some?" I asked. The look on her face was horrified. I smiled and she understood that I was joking. We both laughed. She put her arm around me and put my arm around her as we walked off the dance floor. If this were a fairy tale, it would end with, "They lived happily ever after." This isn't a fairy tale. There have been times when 60+ years of being a controlling bitch still motivate Elaine to attempt to run everything according to her way. There have been times when Marie has felt the urge to be her mother in the lives of Adam and Christine. I have stepped into it a few times as well, and I'm sure I will again. All that said, they did live happily ever after, so far. Dear listeners, this was just a small feel-good story and nothing special. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.